Hello, everyone. I want to talk about politics and kind of think through some things that are kind of difficult to live out and to kind of figure out as a follower of Jesus. Today in California, which is where I live, it's Tuesday, September 14th, and it's the 2021 California recall election day. So we get to vote by today if we would like to recall our governor, Gavin Newsom, or if we would like to keep him, and who we would like to replace him with if we vote yes for the recall. And it's been kind of a hostile topic for the last weeks now. So I want to talk about how, as followers of Jesus, are we supposed to navigate the political world? And specifically when it comes to like our family, friends, social media, especially social media. I'm not someone that's on top of politics every single day. So I'm coming from the perspective of someone that gets to vote on this big decision and just kind of gonna share my perspective about like from what I've heard as someone that's not so informed about everything that is involved with this decision, this recall. In another video, I had mentioned that it's kind of discouraging as someone that tends to have more conservative views and someone that comes from a Christian worldview, for me to vote time after time on a lot of issues. And because I live in a state that is very much Democrat, on a lot of things, it's just kind of like you walk in and we're going to lose. My vote is just, it's the principle of walking in and doing your duty to vote, but you kind of know that probably that's as far as your vote is going to get. It's that principle vote. So it's really interesting to kind of live in this day, live in this possibility that California could switch their governor and for the runner up to be someone so different from Gavin Newsom. He is Larry Elder, and he is very conservative when it comes to his own political views and the things he would like to get done in California. Initially, I didn't know where I stood like a month ago. Did I want to vote to recall Newsom? I mean, how do I feel? How do I think California is doing? It is what it is, really. Just living here all of my life. California is what it is. And, it has a bad reputation in other states. It's kind of one of the things that kind of bugs me when people talk about, oh, well, of course, it's California. Everybody over there is like really like kind of crazy. And I always think, no, there's a lot of us that, we're conservative. We don't agree with those things, but we're outnumbered. We're not represented in our government. So it's fascinating to me that although California is so heavily, Democratic, that there was enough people that wanted to recall the man that won, right? The election to be a governor. So that tells me some things that, okay, there's enough people that are actually willing to do something because of their dissatisfaction with our governor. Some things that didn't sit well with me before all of this was going on was how there were pictures from Governor Newsom going to this super expensive restaurant and he was not wearing a mask and they were not like socially distancing at the table. And I felt like, oh, what a hypocrisy. Here you are, the leader, forcing us to social distance. And you are just living completely different. Even if it was that one time, it totally took away credibility from him and it broke trust. You know, if he felt comfortable enough to sit that close to people, then are you really being honest with us about COVID? If you are the man that has so much more information about things than us, and that's the choice you made, then are you lying to us about masks, about social distancing? And another thing I heard was that while so many parents were having to keep their children at home, he was continuing to send his children to like an on-site school. So there have just been some really interesting things going on. One related to like religious freedom was definitely all of that talk about churches not gathering and it not being safe, and then also like saying that it's not essential, and then at the same time kind of making strip clubs seem more essential than churches gathering. That was really repulsive as well. And again, I feel like it just totally distanced like us normal people from the governor. I feel like there's no trust there. So when this recall started happening, and I didn't really know about who else was running for the governor position, but one thing caught my attention, that people on the left started making these accusations that this black man running for governor was being labeled as a white supremacist. And that just kind of caught my attention. I just thought, oh my goodness, how inappropriate, how wrong is that? And how come it's not being condemned by more people? It's just really ridiculous sounding to me. It goes with that whole idea that because you are a certain ethnicity, because you have a certain skin color, then that automatically says that you have to vote a certain way for a specific political party. And that when you step outside of that, you are labeled as a traitor, and grossly, he was labeled as a white supremacist. Can you imagine being a black man? His father, I heard about his father's experience, like trying to get a job and just being in that world where it was so segregated still. And for someone like him to have, I'm sure he's had his own personal experiences with people that do fall into that category of being a white supremacist. And for someone to label him as that gross label simply because he has different political views and he has different answers for how to help minorities, for example. That angered me. It reminded me of how Joe Biden had to apologize because he said that if black people didn't vote for him, then they were not black. And it's just so wrong. It's so wrong on so many levels. I started listening to some videos where he's kind of talking about certain things, another things that I agree with politically, having to do with policies that I would love for California to go towards that direction instead of where we're at. Also, something that really bothered me about our governor was how he allowed things to get so violent, and the things that he was not necessarily being so vocal about, like let there be peace during the election season or during our disagreements. We have to respect each other, and it just felt so dangerous at one point. I remember being in my home during things that were happening with Black Lives Matter, or some people say Antifa, and I'm not saying they're the same thing, but it seemed at the time that it was happening that it was like Antifa related or just people that were rioting. And I remember it came pretty close here to our neighborhood. There was like just one of those small stores, convenience stores that you can go to near where I live. And I remember just feeling afraid. What if all of those rioters are gonna come like to our neighborhood or something like that? And I just wondered, how come you're not advocating for your political views while at the same time advocating for peace and not rioting? That's so disappointing, and it really is alarming. I would hate for something like that to continue to happen. It's so divisive. And I'm not belittling the other side's views. I'm all for listening to different perspectives, but I definitely agree that all of these things, even like this anger, and I mean, there are things that we can come together and definitely condemn together, even though we disagree on like the solution. And that's really what I wanted to talk about on this video. As followers of Jesus, it's so tempting to become so anxious about these issues, and so it's so tempting to just mock people in return and be hateful and disrespect them. I had an experience recently where I felt like, because I wrote a post, it's happened several times recently actually, where I've just written my opinion on social media or on YouTube, and people of opposing views will like make fun, joke, give their own opinion, right? But in the way that they're doing it, it's like not being tolerant, not being respectful of Christianity or, conservative views. And I was starting to wonder, you know what? Are we really supposed to be like these pushovers as Christians, as followers of Christ? Or are we allowed to respond? In the Proverbs, I think it says that you're not supposed to respond a fool, but then it also says there's a time to respond to the fool. And some of the things that you read, it's just so tempting to just kind of point out how wrong people are. Because there's opinions, but then there's truth. So when someone is just saying something that is completely not true, then I feel like, okay, that's when you don't necessarily respect someone saying wrong things. And that's how the people that were against my view, they felt like I was saying wrong things and they had to put a stop to it. And that's where I disagree. Okay, you think you don't believe in Christianity and I do, but that doesn't mean you have to shut me down because you think it's wrong. I have good reasons to believe it's right. So I would label that as opinions, but at the same time, like I would label Christianity as true, and that's probably another video. But another thing, I think it was yesterday, the president Biden and the governor Newsom came in a very expensive airplane, and my husband actually went to go get some footage of it. And we were just kind of talking about it. Is it really appropriate for the President of the United States to be using that airplane and everything that it entails, right? All the people that are working, all of that money for this, for him to show his support for Newsom, a California governor. Obviously, it has to do with election, maybe securing his the next 4 years of his presidency by having Newsom as, the Democrat leader. I don't know, but it almost looks like the President of the United States is working for the California governor at this point. It's like, don't you have more important things to do? Like, why didn't you spend this amount of time? Well, I'm being a little petty here, but why didn't you use like this amount of attention for what was going on in Afghanistan? Is really the California recall election more important to address than what was going on in Afghanistan and all of our concerns nationwide, on the left and on the right about what is going on? So For the first time, I had a US president just a few streets, a few minutes away from me, where I could have maybe made it a point to take my kids to go see that. And, there was no motivation for me to go see the governor or the president of the United States. It just feels like there's not a lot of respect and not a lot of trust. So, with this 9/11 thing that happened, they showed a video of President Biden running after the thing had finished that ceremony, and he made it a point to go see this elderly person, and he's wearing his mask, and wouldn't you know it, he lowered his mask in the moment that he should have had it on. Especially, he got super close to this elderly person who knows, if he would have had coronavirus or something, and he just took down his mask and he got super close to this person and just talked to this person. I mean, things like that. It's just okay, so it's safe to not wear masks and to be that close to someone. It's not setting a good example, and it just seems like hypocrisy, because you make it a point every single speech, nobody is close to you, but you put your mask on. Things like that are so frustrating. So, what do you do when you're frustrated with your politicians? We can talk about the things that we're noticing, but I think we do need to resist the temptation to disrespect people. I mean, they may feel that you're being disrespectful, but if you really are not, and you're doing your best to be respectful, then okay, that disagreeing with someone is not being disrespectful, right? That's all I'm saying. But if you're really losing your temper, I think that's something that we need to resist. I mentioned, something that happened when I felt my Christian views were being belittled and mocked. I felt disrespected, and so I felt like, what, let me just respond to this person and just try to reason with this person. But the person was just continuing to be rude, and at one point I just found myself like, why am I continuing to respond in my anger? And then I had to think, okay, the reality is this person is laughing at what I believe, but I believe that this person, if they don't believe in Jesus, they're going to go to hell. And, they probably already have a lot of baggage about experiences with Christians. Chances are, because this person believes in being rude to people, literally said that women should be more rude, that would be a good thing. And I just thought, what? I want to be one less person on her baggage of Christian experiences that she must have. And I decided to apologize to that person for being rude. And I thought, I should apologize for if she felt I was being rude. And then I thought, no, if I'm going to apologize, I'm just going to say because I was rude. Because, what I consider rude might be not rude for someone else. But still, I felt a lot of relief after I apologized. And the response wasn't anything that made me feel good about my decision. But I felt good about doing what I believed Jesus would have wanted me to do. And if we engage people in the way that they are engaging us in, that seems okay in their own worldview, then they're changing us. And we don't want people to change us. We want God to change us. We want to follow what He tells us we should be like. We want to follow His example. So it's going to take some work, I guess, figuring out when to speak up, how to speak up, and when we just need to ignore certain things about other people, because at the end of the day, we know that these people are in danger of going to hell. And, I really don't want to add to that person taking another step backwards to hopefully one day being able to accept the truth. So, this video isn't really about who is going to win, who will be the winner at the end of today, or I don't know how long they're going to take, because today is the day that you have to go to the polls if you live in California. Just go online and look what is the poll closest to me. Or if you have your ballot, that's how I voted. I received my ballot in the mail and I just wrote yes, and I personally voted for Larry Elder because I would love to see what California could be under his leadership. And so, I really want to urge you to vote today. Today is the last day that you can mail that in if you're going to vote by mail. So it needs to have that postmark. I think it's before 8 p.m. I'm not too sure, so double check, but as early as possible, do it today. And then I guess we'll find out the results when all of that is going to be counted, and we'll see. I don't know. We'll see what the steps will be. But whoever wins, whoever loses, let's not add to the hostility and the belittling, the mocking, the hatred. There is hatred out there. Labeling this Larry Elder person as Trump, pretty much. I think I read something that Biden said about him. I just thought, okay, so there you could be successful in an election if you just have a common enemy. And that enemy was Trump. And that, I think that's what got them the victory in their election, because so many people had the same common enemy. Now, it's so easy to pretty much just make Larry look like Trump, pretty much. And so you associate all that hatred that those people have towards Trump, and now you just pour it onto this other man. And I feel like it's really unfair. I hate that type of tactics, and that's why I don't like or enjoy living in politics every single day. It's very frustrating. But I really believe that as followers of Jesus, whoever wins, we respect it and we don't mock the person. We can voice our opinions, about certain things. Like how today on my Twitter, I pointed out how it was so interesting that here we have potentially the first Black governor in California. It could be history for California. And you don't hear anything about that on Democrats. Instead, you hear, wait, this person is not really Black. Don't vote for him because he's not really about the agenda. And unfortunately, if you're not really thinking about these things critically, then you're just going to believe whatever your side of the politics tells you. So I just find it so wrong also for Biden, for example, to have said, if you vote for me, then I will choose a woman as the vice president, or I will vote a Black woman for whatever position he wanted. And it's like, okay, so the person that you chose, not because that person is very, really good for the job. Like, what if you had a man that was more qualified than a woman, for example? So you chose the woman just because she's a woman. You chose her because of her gender. I feel like that is so belittling. I feel like the conversations that emphasize gender and skin color are so backwards, are so not modern. They're, back in segregation days. And those are the kind of conversations they promote. Instead, we can just talk about, for example, Larry Elder as, okay, what are his views? What is he all about? What's his character like? And instead of just I feel like it was a little bit like that with Obama, where it was like, oh, we need change. We need the first black president. So it's almost like he represents the skin color rather than you're seeing him as a man, no different than a white man, no different than a black man, no different than a Hispanic man, a character, right? That's what's important, right? So these conversations are really frustrating, and I'm all for Larry Elder being the first black governor in California because of the man that he is. And yes, we can talk about, hey, this is the first black person. And just kind of think, really? Like, it's only been like white people to be, oh, okay, that's great, great. That, someone not the same ethnicity was also able and qualified to have this position. And we can talk about all those reasons why it might not have been the case all of those other years. And those are great conversations to have, but without all of that hatred and division. So anyway, that's the video for today. And let me know in the comments area. I want to hear your opinions, whether you are a Republican or a Democrat. I really feel that we can learn from each other. So please go ahead, share your perspective because it is important. And I'll see you on the next video, guys. Bye. Oh, I always forget. Very important. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel. And remember to like this video. Okay, guys? And share it with someone, especially today, because we want to encourage people to go vote. All right, for real. Bye. Joy to